Right, item 9. Now we've got the annual plans for the council-funded entities. We have that for Arafa, MOTAT and the museum. And I welcome to the table Alistair Cameron. Good morning.
Good morning, Madam Chair. The report before you deals with all three of the annual levy processes that we have to deal with. I'll take the report as read, but just at a very high level, the levies you're being asked to approve, the War Memorial Museum, it's the same level of funding as was previously provided in the current financial year, which was the same as the year before. They've moderated their requests in light of the COVID budgets. MOTAT, the levy request is an increase on the current financial year's levy, but in response to the emergency budget, MOTAT actually reduced their levy by about $1 million last year, so they're still at a level of funding below where they were the previous financial year. And with the Auckland Regional Amenities funding, there is a modest increase there, largely to accommodate the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra, and they're moving to a new salary model with their players as opposed to a contract model. And that was something that's been discussed at length and in fact came out of a strategic review asked for by the funding board itself. In summary, all of the levies before you are in line with the legislation which allows them to ask for it, and we're recommending that the levies be approved. Happy to take questions.
Thank you, Alistair. I'll move. We'll put it on the table. Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Right, we'll go for questions. Sorry, Councillor Walker.
I've just got a question. In the agenda item as attachments, you've got excerpts of the annual reports, but not the whole report, or for that matter, a link. So in past years, I think we've often had the access to the whole report. Is there a reason for that? And if not, can we not see the whole report?
You have previously seen the draft annual plans, a link with the full annual plans was circulated last night. There are hard copies over there. Why we haven't done it is simply space on the agenda. I think if we add all the annual plans, it's another 100 pages on your agenda. So we just put the sort of relevant financial excerpts on there, but all of that information has either been made available to you prior in draft form or has been circulated now.
Through you, Madam Chair.
And like I say, hard copies are available.
It did come through last night by email.
Sure. Through you, Madam Chair. I mean, what I'm conscious of is our reporting is both reporting to us, but it's also reporting to the people of Auckland who may have an interest in, for example, the Auckland Museum or some other institution. And yes, I understand space, but can we not provide a link? Because I understand that many of these reports on the part of these institutions are available on their websites or the like, so that at least either a councillor or someone else can do some diligence and, you know, further their inquiry. Is that possible?
We can provide a link if necessary, and I would add that MOTAT, the museum, and the funding board are required to publicly consult on their draft annual plan, so those members of the public that are interested can engage through those processes as well, but we can provide a link if that's what you want.
All right, and it will go up on their own websites too. Any further questions? Well, wonderful. Anyone would like to speak in support? Well, I'll speak in support. I would just like to, I'd like to thank both Ed and Alistair for their work. Look, this has been tough. You know, they took a big hit in the emergency budget this financial year. And I, really want to congratulate, for example, MOTAT, who took a huge step back in the emergency budget in their ask, a huge step back. And they're just beginning to take a little baby step forward as we all look towards recovery, which is what we're of course doing in the LTP, and you remember that these go annual plan by annual plan. Museum, I think, absolutely deserve a round of thanks from us all for holding their levy at the same amount of money. And the regional amenities, look, it's really tough for them too, you know. And we've just got to realise that they're only asking us, the RAFA's only asking us for 41% of what they're allowed to ask us for. So it's significantly lower because they appreciate the financial constraints that Auckland is in. So I absolutely commend this to your vote. And I look as if I do have one more comment now. No? Yes, I did.
You're actually moving.
Oh, well, you didn't put your hand up. Anyway, I know that you're all in support then. we can. Okay, we've got a question. I will let you speak. Yes.
Madam Chair.
I'm happy to do that. David?
Just a question because I went so fast. Alistair, how do you intend to progress paragraph 51 of the Māori impact statement? That's the governance, inclusion of more mana whenua in the governance side of things rather than just via the taumata.
Mayor, do you want to speak?
There is an ongoing discussion at a governance level between the board of the museum and some councillors. I think that can be one of the topics brought in there. The taumata is part of the legislation, so other than legislative change to formally incorporate that, would have to look for mechanisms within the legislative framework unless there was to be change. In regards to MOTAT, I think there's some sort of fairly active conversations about integration of MOTAT with Auckland Unlimited, and what could be explored there is sort of advisory governance boards or the like. So we have Māori advisory boards like the art gallery. It's how that these can be formalised more, and that's just ongoing discussion.
Yeah, just for you, Madam Chair, I mean, I understand the makeup and the taumata and that is an advisory capacity. I'm not sure whether they have a person that goes from there onto the board, but what I'm seeking, obviously, and I hope we all are, is more Māori in through the front door of the governance body rather than through some side door. Yeah, and that would be ditto for MOTAT. I'm not sure how far we can go with MOTAT, but I would encourage it as just as equal as I would with the museum and others.
And through the chair, I would just add that Auckland Council itself appoints directors to the boards of MOTAT and the War Memorial Museum, and there was an opportunity there.
Kia ora, thank you. I haven't closed the debate. I was just speaking as the mover. So, Your Worship.
Thank you very briefly, Madam Chair. What we're passing here is a substantial sum of money, $63 million, and that's an annual sum that we pay. And I doubt that our ratepayers actually even are aware of the fact that we're putting that sort of money into our Auckland War Memorial Museum, Museum of Transport and Technology, and the Arafa trusts. I believe it's money well spent. These are critical amenities that we provide for our city, but it is a big sum of money. I want to acknowledge that all three agencies have cooperated thoroughly in terms of our emergency budget and the need to constrain their expenditure, and that does need to be acknowledged. They have cooperated fully with us. MOTAT gets a bit of an increase, but it took a substantial decrease last year. So, Michael, thank you, and Sue for that. The museum, as I commented earlier, is at a static level, but has been is by far the biggest beneficiary of our spending in this area. I just wanted to comment very briefly on Arafa and to thank the board for its cooperation and Anita for the work that she's done on that. But 2/3 of the extra funding is to go to the Auckland Philharmonia Orchestra. And I had the chance to talk to the orchestra just over a year ago, and the rate of pay we're paying to highly skilled musicians is minimal. It's not too far off minimum wage. And yet these are people that have incredible passion, incredible skill, and are likely to be raided from us because others can afford to pay them more. So I absolutely prove as an exception to the rule that we are putting a bit more money into the orchestra because one, it is absolutely justified, and two, the consequences of not doing so will be to put that orchestra into a situation where it's losing many of its critical players that makes it the special group that it is for the city. So I want to speak in support of what we've done and to thank all of the agencies for their cooperation through this really difficult time when each of those agencies has also suffered from loss of income because we've been locked down, because we've got no international visitors and so on. So thank officials too, finally, for coming up with something that I think is realistic and responsible in all the circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you. And those musicians spend years and years and years of training getting to that point.
Yes, absolutely.
Councillor Walker.
Just want to speak in support, but also to emphasise the need in the reporting for the officers to generate some templates so that we have an increasing breakout between the regional, which is the Auckland Council aspect, and the national aspect, because quite obviously, as far as the Auckland Museum is concerned, there's a significant national role there. For the Auckland Philharmonia, I would suggest that that's also the case. Obviously, New Zealand Opera, and so on. And we need to have that oversight, and the government needs to see that, and the importance for us to have a level of reporting that indicates the variety of value that many of these entities give us, particularly in respect to the museum, that conservatorial role, the treasures that it holds, the cultural value and so on, which is absolutely immense. And as it stands now, that kind of reporting doesn't really come through, and in terms of our investment decisions, does not enable us adequately to weigh up competing investment requirements, both on our part and I would suggest the government's part, which is sorely needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Cooper.
Probably what I was going to say was really in the lines of the Mayor. I mean, I think for all these organisations, it was such a hit last year and lower numbers, etc., loss of revenue. And so I do want to acknowledge them because a whole lot of other funding mechanisms dried up as well. And so it's been a really difficult time for all, and just, repeat what the Mayor said, really, to acknowledge everybody, because for all the governance boards, the management, it's really tough. And we're asking them to, be tougher. So that's an acknowledgement, and we just hope things get better. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Team Auckland. Right, with no further speakers, and I'm just waiting now, no further speakers. It has been moved and seconded, so I'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you.